for this week's project, what we've got is, along at Halton St Mary, I've got a bare patch of ground. No, it's not, it's just bare bit of baseball, but you know what we're like, we think sometimes our layouts are real. Anyway, that area is crying out for something, and I thought maybe a little market on there. So I looked around for some market barrows or market stalls, and I came against two. One of them is by Scale Model Scenery, and the other one is Ancorton Models. So I got one of each, and I thought, I know what I'll do. Tonight I'll make one of each of them, compare them, see what the models are like, see what you get, and that might be of interest to you if you're thinking about getting market stalls, barrows, and you can see what these ones are like, how they come out, and see what the differences are. So without further ado, I'll set up the camera and then we'll get rolling. So catch you in a minute. Okay, so as I said, we've got two packs here. One Scale Model Scenery, one is Ancorton, hopefully I'll say that right, models. This one was £7 and it was actually ordered through Scaleology. I don't know if it's the same company or they just are the outlet for Ancorton models. Scale Model Scenery's one was £7.29. So what's the difference of them? They're both 4mm. This one's Market Stalls LX067-00. The Ancorton one is again 00 scale, and the reference is 00MB1/95733. This is Market Stalls, this one Market Barrows. So these ones have got wheels, these ones haven't. This has got 4 kits in it. So you've got 2 barrows with canopies and 2 without. And this one, I think again, is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 stalls. This one comes with little crates, and there's little pictures to stick to them as well, so it looks like the fruit and veg in them. The difference in the kits, this one is, I think they call it laser card. It looks like a thick cardboard, it almost looks like MDF, and the Ancorton Models one is kind of a plywood, or is it just a single veer? It's just a single veer. It's got a grain running through it. My fear with my clumsy hands is I might split some of this. Anyway, we're going to try and put some together. As I say, I'm going to do one of each. Then we can. I'm not going to paint them tonight. That's going to drag on too long. But I'll make one of each. Compare how they go. Compare how they look. And we'll see what we do. Now to make them. Fairly basic tools, scalpel, and I've put a brand new blade in there, and I've got Deluxe Materials Rocket Card Glue, and I've also got one of the little applicators to go on here as well, so you get a thin bead. Let's start with one of these. Packed by Kate. That's a personal touch, isn't it? You know exactly who's packed it. So what do we get in the bag? Get rid of that thing, because we will make these up as much as we can. Right, we obviously get the laser cut card with all the parts on it, and up to the normal standard from Scale Model Scenery, we get a nice instruction sheet with all the pictures on there of how to go and a list of what to do. We've also got the canopies on here. There's a choice of green, orange, stripy green, and then we've got the fills in for the little crates, so we can either have empty crates or we can have fruit and veg crates. Oh look, they've even done the printing on the other side. I'm not sure in the 1920s where mine is based whether they would have had fancy awnings on them, so I think I'm just going to stick to the plain ones and then cut those out neatly. Right, okay, so let's get going. We'll put that one to one side for the moment, and we'll just do this. So it always seems easier to cut these from the back. If you hold them up to the light, you can just see where the little holes, the little connectors are. So it looks like they're all down the sides. As I say, I've just replaced the scalpel blade on this one, so we should be okay. Right, there's one out. These are the individual components that have been cut out. We've got enough to make up 2 trestles, so there's 1 trestle here, 1 trestle there. We've got the tabletop, we've got a vertical framework that gives the stool its height, and then we've got a rectangular one that sits on the vertical framework to keep the canopy in place. The trestles are made up of 4 individual parts, if I just zoom in. So you've got 2 A-frames, you've got a bottom brace and a top brace. And you can just see on the top brace that there is a little notch on top of that. And that notch locates into that hole on the tabletop. So it keeps it all firm and in place and square once you stick it together. Now that notch is actually a T-shape. And that is because your little bit from the upper brace has got to go in there. And also this leg of the vertical frame has to slide in there as well, so it all kind of locks together when you glue it. Gluing together is the next thing we need to do. As you can see, I have put everything back onto a white piece of paper. Hopefully that makes it easier for you to see. The other thing you see is 2 trestle tables. I only filmed one of them. The first one took about 8 minutes to do. The second one was 4 or 5 minutes. So that's why I sped the film up, so you didn't sit there getting bored. But they were an absolute nightmare. As you've seen, and as I've said before, I shake quite a bit, so that doesn't make it easy. The components that fit together are a really snug fit. So hats off to model scale scenery for getting that level of precision. But when you're trying to put them back together, oh, nightmare. Now, one of the reasons is, and if I can bring this up to the camera a bit more, you can see there that on the cross piece there is a tiny little hole, and at the top of the apex there's a kind of a U shape. Now you've got to get your cross braces into those 2 on one A-frame, and then either glue it and quickly put the next one in before this one sets, or just put the next A-frame on and then try and glue it all together. But you've got to have the movability before all the glue sets to actually get the thing square. And as I say, it wasn't easy. Anyway, I did achieve it. We got there. So there's the two A-frames. And the next stage is to glue them to the tabletop. Right, so what I'm going to do for gluing this in is to have the tabletop upside down. I'm going to try and put the trestle legs in, which I hope is going to be a darn sight easier than putting the things together. I'm going to just try my fingers. If that doesn't work, I will try the tweezers, but oh, look at that, it's gone in straight time, first time. That has got to be a winner. Okay, let's see if we can get the other one in. And that's gone in straight away as well. And just push them down with that. Now I've changed the nib on my glue as well. That blue one, it's okay, but I think these long flexible ones seem to be a little bit better. Just put a couple of bits of glue behind it, and then use capillary action to draw it through, hopefully. Now the reason I've done it that way and not put the glue on the legs and then put them in is that you've got the holes, as I say, for the vertical frame to go on, and I don't want to block the holes for when I come to do those. So they do seem to be a quite size. Just try and square these up a bit before they dry off. Right, so that's in. I'm going to let that dry and then we'll flip it over and we'll get the verticals in. So I'm just going to turn you off for a second. So that's nicely dried up. What I've done is just straighten up the legs a little bit as well, so that's helped. So here you can see the two holes, and that is where this vertical has got to go in. So again, I'll hopefully just slide it in and put a couple of dobs of glue on there, and that will hold it. See how easy this one is then. Welcome back the shakes. I'm going to hold it down. I don't want to put any pressure on these and snap them as they slide in. This is what I was saying also about trying not to get glue into the holes where these fix in. So if I can get that with a pair of tweezers, I might be able to see it a lot better than getting my big fat fingers in the way. That's it, that's slid in. Now they must go down to the ground, which they have, and again, if I can just find the glue, we'll just pop a little tiny bit. Let's just move it in a bit more because I'm coming out of frame here. Right. I'm finding this long tube on here on the glue pot a lot easier than the that little blue thing. Now, as I showed before, once I do have too much excess glue, I'll just get a cotton bud and just dab it and maybe twist it just to draw the excess glue away. Right, just tap that down again. Trying to keep this as vertical as possible. So look at it from end on, and that's well off. There you go. Right, again, I'm just going to wait a few minutes and I'll come back to you shortly. That's it. The other thing is, being that they're so delicate and the wood is so slim, it does, you can kind of slightly bow it. Right, let's write the way down on that. little peg, and that's on that peg. So again, all we need to do now is just add a tiny little bit of glue on these where it joins the main frame. And again, I put too much on there, so just take a little bit of the excess off with a bit of a cotton bud. I think in America they call them Q-tips or something strange. Right, so that's glued. If I turn it round, I can hopefully look from the end and see how square that is or isn't, and it's not quite square, so we'll push it down a tad. That's it. Right, so while that's drying, what I've also done, just push that out the way. On the instructions they give you different canopies. So for these, this is the one I've cut out. What they say you should do is fold down the centre line. Now there is an actual line within that kind of blur bit of weathering on there. So if we just line that up, and I can't see anything in the shadows here. Got some more right, that's better. Got my glasses on that magnify it. So if you line it up with the line, then I'm just going to use the back of the scalpel. I'm not going to cut, I'm just going to run the scalpel down there just to give me an edge. And then that should fold quite nicely. And again on the bottom and top. And we've got to crease this over those frames, the two different frames that are there. Both the vertical one and the horizontal rectangular one. So what we do is just like that. There's a couple of score lines really, just to help it crease over. Just take it off camera for a moment. So that should bend, and as you can see it bends nice and straight then. So I'm going to bend it right in half. It does actually expose the white paper underneath, but I can get a bit of a pencil or something and just run over that. Now I could sit that just on the frame as it is now, but as you can see it's a bit angular. So what I'm going to do is quickly see if I can find a bit of tubing or something. I haven't got tubing, but I've got a nice highlighter pen here, and all I'm going to do is roll the edges around the pen a bit. That might not give it enough actually. Oh, I don't know. Do the other side as well. Right, so if I show you that again, as you can see what it's done is kind of given out a bit of a curved edge on there, so it looks like it's sagging, because quite often these market stalls, they didn't pull the roofs tight. It would have been canvas and it would have moved at tight, you know, it just would have, especially in wet weather, it stretches a bit. And then all we got to do then is where we scored the sides, just bring that down a bit as well. And on the other side. And bend the middle again. Just try and retain that on the frame. Right, now this is dried, so what I'm going to do is just put a bead of glue across that ridge. Put the canvas over the top and tap it down. And then we'll give that a few seconds to dry, and then once it has, we can stick the sides down. That's it, it's drying off. The rocket card glue does dry fairly quickly, so it's very good for doing things like this. Do is let that dry, and then I'll have a play around and stick the sides to the side of the side frame. While that's drying, what I'm going to start doing is look at the Ancorton models market barrows, and we'll start putting one of those together. So we'll come back to this one in a minute or two. Right, so this is the I'm trying to read this upside down. Ancorton models market barrows. So the one I'm going to make up is this one with the canopy on it, just to make things fair with the canopy, the one we did from Scale Model Sceneries. So I've opened up the pack partially, and inside we've got firstly got the fret. There's a lot less pieces on here. It looks a lot easier to put together. Just here they've got the canopies that they supply with it, and these are pre-cut out, and the nice thing about them being pre-cut out is they put a slightly not sure what you call that, but a jagged edge. It's not jagged because it's not torn, but it's cut edge, but it's fluted or something like that. These ones haven't got any marks on them, so there's no weathering on there, but that's not a problem because I'm sure with a bit of colouring pencil or something you could mark them up to look like they've got some dirt across the ridge. So that's what's in there so far. We have a delve in here as well. See what the instructions are like. Let's get rid of that just for a second. Okay, so you just got the front cover for it. So we'll get rid of that. And then the instructions are again quite nice. They are nicely typed out. There's some nice pictures with them. Little arrows and things to denote what some of the stuff where it goes. That's quite nice. I like that. They're definitely nice. So often you get some instructions that are a bit not easy to read, kind of handwritten, not very good pictures. These are photographs. Sometimes you just get drawings. But I like these. This is nice. Put it to one side, the right way up to me, so I can read it. Not that you ever do read these things, do you? So let's try cutting one of these out. Now these little tags keeping these in place are quite prominent both front and back. So I think I can probably cut here. The other nice thing is these gaps we have to actually cut out are larger than the ones on the Scale Model Sceneries. And as I said, I'm always worried that some of these are so thin that they're just going to pop apart. So we obviously need kind of the top for it, so that our little people can put all their goods on there. We need front and backs. Right, so we've cut out the components, and we've got the base, equivalent to the tabletop I suppose. We've got a heel plate and a toe plate. We've got the two side frames with the legs. We've got two wheels, and we've got the axle. We've got the two supports for the canopy, and we've got a ridge. This looks like it's going to be a lot easier to put together, so let's have a go at sticking it up. all finished. Now the only thing I'm not too sure about, and it's not a criticism of the model, the kit, or of Ancorton, is the canopy. I don't think that matches my railway. As I said, my railway's based in the 1920s, and I just think this is a bit too ornate for then. So I haven't stuck it down, and I'm not going to use it. I'm going to come up with my own idea, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But we'll get rid of it and just talk about the model. So the problems I had, and you probably noticed these, was getting that ridgepole in for one, and I think the way around that, and for when I do the others, is to lean it there on its roof, on the slopey part of the roof, put the ridgepole in, and then put a tiny dot of glue on either end. Give it a couple of seconds just for that glue to take, and then it will be able to pick it up without the ridgepole coming off. But I don't want to leave it long enough that when I try and pick it up, it's stuck to the board that I'm working on and pulls the whole thing apart. The other problem I had, as you probably noticed, was the axles. The axles sit on these triangle bits in there, which I hope you can just see. Even when these are dried, it was still so easy just to knock them and they just pulled away. There was so little contact between the axle and the apex of that triangle. Now that could be changed by just putting a little knock into the apex of the triangle there. That would mean that the axle could actually sit inside that knock, and it would hold it in place. You couldn't knock it side to side. The other thing is, when you put your glue on there, it would be glued to three sides of the axle rather than just the one side of the axle to the apex of the triangle. Just a thought, but it would have made life a little bit easier, especially me with my shaky hands. Right, apart from that, I'm going to put that down so you can see it. I'm going to zoom out, and we'll bring in the scale model scenery one and put it to one side, and as you can see, I've now put the canopy on there as well. Now my only problem with this canopy is it's just a fraction, and I don't know if you can see that, it's just a fraction short, so it would have been nice if it came up to these sidebars on each one. Now that canopy I do like. It's a nice colour, it's got a bit of a grain and texture in it. It's got the weathering where it runs and lays on the various parts of the framework, but I'm not too sure. Then, as I say, they're not long enough, so I'm going to have a go at making my own canopies. And I'm sure a number of you have seen that on YouTube, quite a few people make their own tarpaulins for their wagons, and they make them out of tissue and they form it in, get the right shape, then they impregnate the tissue with PVA glue. When it dries, it's rock solid, but that will give that texture, and I'm sure I can use some weathering powders just to get the same sort of effect on the edges like this one's got. So I'm definitely going to use this as kind of a template and ideas plate example for doing that. But as I say, I think I'm going to work on my own canopies. Now, to compare these two models, they are, well, the quality's the same, isn't it? They're very delicate, they're nicely to scale. If you put them side by side, the tabletop from this one is at the same height as the bed on the Barrow. They just look right together, they complement each other, which is nice. This one was very, very fiddly. Putting those A-frames together was a nightmare and a half. This one wasn't so fiddly, but then again, it's got less components. At the end of the day, when they're both painted up, I think they're going to make a nice little cameo at Halton St Mary on that bare bit of baseboard. I almost said ground again. And it will make a nice little scene there. By the time it's populated and we put some goods of some sort on here as well, I think it's going to look quite nice. Right, so that was a bit more of a marathon than I thought. I've got one of each done, as you've seen. I'm quite pleased with them. They're quite nice detailed kits to do. I said the idea was to build one of each, compare them, and then see which one I wanted to use, or whether I wanted to use both lots. What I've since found though is, and I should have remembered about these, is that wheels do plastic market Barrows. There's two in here. And then when I was searching some stuff on eBay, I came across a person called John's Model Railways. Don't know whether you've come across him, but he has done some market stalls as well. These are his kit MOD 101-6 market stalls. Difference with John's are they are printed out on card, so it's literally cut and stick, different colours. They are full market stalls, so they go right the way round down to the ground. There's interior sheets so you can decorate them out. They've got different goods, people standing behind the counters, etc. I'm going to give these a go. My only reserve on these is the fact that I think they're too modern. Sorry, I thought I just read on there modern. It says market glasses on my head, you see. So I'm going to give those a go. So tonight was Market Stalls Part 1. Next week I might do Market Stalls Part 2 and then compare, paint everything up, get it all finished and compare all four. See what we think, which ones we're going to use. I've got my doubts about these ones, but I thought I'd give them a go. You never know. Right. Bit of explanation about why project nights. The missus goes out on a Tuesday night. She's either off to rock choir, that's probably 3 or 4 Tuesdays a month. The 4th/5th Tuesday in the month she goes off to WI. So I get the house to myself for a couple of hours and I do some modelling. I could go up the shed, but as you can see through the window there, it's dark, it's wet and it's cold. There is lighting up there and I've got a small heater, but it's not that comfortable at this time of year. It's also very confined, so I can't get outside and do anything out in the garden. So yeah, it's just some time to do a desktop model or desktop project. So Market Stalls Part 1 this week, Market Stalls Part 2 probably next time. Then after that I've got a Metcalfe kit I built a few weeks ago that you might have seen me having a look at, which was the town corner house or corner townhouse. I've got some plans for that. Won't go into it now because that's obviously for the next video. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. Hope you got some interest from it. Just to see how these kits go together. They are difficult. If you've got big hands, shake your hands like I have. They take a time, but I think they're worth it. So until next time, enjoy your railways and see you next time. Bye for now.